They've got to figure it out, and that's why it added some fuel to the fire about this potential story, because the New Orleans Pelicans, of course, made their East Coast trip. So Zion Williamson made his debut at the Garden. That was fun. 34 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists in his debut. And they interviewed him after the game and asked him about what his emotions were, what it felt like to play in the Garden. And he said that New York might be my favorite place to play outside of New Orleans. These were the comments that Zion Williamson made. Now, I will first acknowledge this. He did seem awfully giddy and enthused and in a cheerful mood when discussing Madison Square Garden. I will acknowledge that. But let me put out this fire that Zion Williamson is going to the New York Knicks. Not just yet. Not just yet. I think people have to remember that this isn't surprising that he feels this way. First of all, almost every single young star basketball player loves playing in the Garden. Kobe loved playing in the Garden. LeBron James loves playing in the Garden. Kevin Durant's talked about it all the time. Kyrie Irving talked about it all the time. None of those guys ended up signing there. They had opportunities in free agency and they opted against it. Not to mention, Zion Williamson played at the Garden multiple times in college for some marquee tournaments and marquee matchups. So he's very familiar with the environment. He's very familiar with what this stadium, what this arena means when it comes to basketball, when it comes to fans. And there's certainly no question that the New York Knicks have been deprived of a Skywalker for years. They've been deprived of someone to really walk through the turnstiles to see. This is an ultimate athlete and an ultimate entertainer and an ultimate show that people would want to see. So there's no question that when he comes out and he makes these kinds of remarks and he utters these words, that it will provide some hope to Knicks fans and perhaps to some NBA fans. Not to mention, it seems fitting because the New York Knicks seem to be so well positioned, so perfectly positioned to draft Zion Williamson 2 years ago. They were the presumptive favorites to land the number 1 overall pick. They finished in the final 3. They were part of the final 3 at a chance at the Zion Williams sweepstakes. And so it's understandable why perhaps they, along with Zion Williamson, kind of started to fantasize and imagine what it would be like to play at the Garden. That's fair. Totally fair. Again, this is the Mecca of basketball. The Knicks, New York, they're clamoring, they're craving a player of this magnitude. It so happens that so far up to this point, Zion has lived up to the billing. He's lived up to all the pre-NBA hype. He has. But there's still no guarantee that he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. It certainly looks like he's well on his way. But regardless, the Knicks just needed someone like this. But here are 2 main reasons why I'm not putting much stock into this theory that he's going to sign with the New York Knicks. It doesn't merit much consideration in my book. First of all, he's absolutely beloved in New Orleans. Drew Brees just retired. So now Zion Williamson is officially the ambassador of New Orleans. He's officially the sports face of that city. And they've welcomed him with open arms. And the city is his oyster at this point. Again, Drew Brees is retired. No one's there to compete with him from a popularity standpoint. That's number 1. Number 2 is whenever you have all great young NBA players that are still trying to prove themselves, they always remain with their teams through the first 7 years. They always sign that second large contract after their rookie contract. Donovan Mitchell recently, Bam. Jason Tatum recently. Kevin Durant did it with Oklahoma City. Damian Lillard did it with the Portland Trailblazers. You can go down the list of all these guys that were that hit the ground running right out of the gates, and they ended up staying with their respective teams at least through the second contract. Yes, I understand Zion Williamson has made already $100 million off his shoe deal. I don't envision a scenario in which, after his first 3 years in the league, he's going to decline a 5-year, $195 million max deal. I just don't see it happening right away. So those are the two main reasons. And listen, I think he does like playing for the New Orleans Pelicans. I do think he enjoys it. This is a guy in Zion Williamson who was simply answering a question. He's just being candid. A reporter asked him, what was it like playing in the Garden? He's giving a candid response. Zion Williamson is much more of the convivial type than a disruptor, than an agitator. He is much more likely to be someone that enjoys being liked, being affable, being more amenable and agreeable, friendly than he is to go against the grain, than he is to be the traitor, to be the mercenary. That doesn't align with his personality. That's not Zion Williamson's personality. So whether or not he opts to leave later, I don't think that these comments from yesterday are a legitimate indication that he's trying to flee New Orleans and all of a sudden sign with the New York Knicks. I don't really see that as the case. So, again, I think he just wants to get along. He just wants to fit in and play basketball. That's what he's always been about. Certainly interesting to entertain that idea. And man, would it be something to see him in a New York Knicks uniform. That would certainly be special. But I think we need to taper down the potential that he's going to be going, because I just don't see that happening, at least not this early in his career. I just don't see it happening.